So I'm down here on Hubbard Street. And the funny thing is, when you're doing this, it's good to have an association. Truly. And the different property owners are part of the association. Why is it that? So you can control the environment of what types of tenants come in. So you can control the theme, because they join the association, and part of the association is they have to conform to the rules, and they have to have a vote on what's going in if it fits in the environment. So down here you get hodgepodge, because people say, oh, it's a popular street, I'll open my thing here. Well, your thing might not fit in, and business doesn't expand. You just pirate from the businesses around you. You don't bring more into the mix. So it doesn't make the destination better. Because people see it vacant, and then the landlord wants to rent the space, and they don't think long-term stability. Because when you rent it, you don't want the place closing. So on the other side of the street down here, there used to be Slurping Turtle and Sugar. So it wasn't just on these two blocks, it was this third block on Hubbard. And that building on the left side is supposed to be one of the more popular buildings in the city for younger people. But there used to be multiple places here. On the ground floor, there's a restaurant, Slurping Turtle, and then there was another place upstairs, if I'm right. It's right here. But anyways, everybody does it incorrect. Why does Disney work? You have Epcot. It has its theme. Then you have Disneyland. It has its thing. Then you have Animal Kingdom. It has its theme. And it's the same thing with Universal Studios. Here's Coco Pazzo. It's still here. It's a good restaurant. It's owned by a couple Arab guys. They own the Coco Pazzos. It's Arab owners. My friend Dawn managed for them. I went in to do their benefits, to get health care for their staff. But the thing is, there's no plan. It's just like when they build in a new high-rise. How is the new structure going to complement the existing structures? Whether it's a business or a high-rise. And the reason these things fail and there's so much turnover, because there's no planning. And then they don't decide when they're going to refresh. Truly. And then when they're going to do a total remodel. So you don't get any collaboration because you don't have a neighborhood association. That's part of the Chamber of Commerce. All the neighborhood associations fit into the chamber. So this is the River North Chamber. And it would block it up. The Magnificent Mile Association, the Hubbard Street Association. And they would break them up into blocks. These subgroups, a hub and spoke. The spoke is the River North Chamber. I sat on the River North Chamber. And there was no coordination. So when you do these things and there's no plan, when you don't plan, you plan to fail. So you need the plan to succeed. And you have to understand your demographics and what you're trying to drive to you and what you don't want. You're not trying to be the end-all, be-all for everybody. You're going after a market and you want to go deep into the market. So, again. Now, that car, he's competing with all the music in the clubs. Does he have a license? And here, it's like this adult bookstore. How does it fit into these places? And these places close early. So you have to have a synergy in operating hours. So people know when you're going to be open and when you're going to be closed. So when they come up here, there's like Howling at the Moon, the Dueling Piano Bar. And then you have an Irish pub right across the street, and now a new sushi bar. But how does the sushi bar fit in with the Irish food, who fits in with the Howling at the Moon, which has, I think, pub food? But also, it's the music thing. The Irish bar, obviously, I would assume they're playing, types of Irish music. I mean, I don't know what their theme is, but then you have JoJo's and the Rock Bar, and then there's this Mexican place. This is a fucking nightmare. And Mother Hubbard's has been here forever, and it has pub food. And my friend used to run it, who ran the beach in Vegas and everything. He used to run Ditka's. But again, you just travel around here, and then you have the hotels. They want a certain type of client. We knew at the Marriott Courtyard, we want business clients. We don't want families. We don't want travelers like vacationers. Our market was, and we wanted, business clients. And some people would be there for 6 months or a year or two. Like Jen. She comes in consulting, and she fly out on Monday and fly back on Thursday night. But every week for months, or Mia, she did 5-year projects. And they stay that's what the Marriott Courtyard was about. Capturing these clients, business travelers that have longer term engagements. We didn't want to spend a lot of money marketing to randomness. We wanted a business client that'll be there, like a rep for Abbott Labs that would come in, and we had them. They would come in every week, stay the week, come in on Monday, stay, and leave on Friday afternoon. They check out Friday morning. But we have these steady clients. So this is the mayor of the city of Chicago. What is he fucking doing? How is he making this friendlier? How is he getting cars to be friendlier, to do things the right way? Because for all the Lyft drivers and the Uber drivers and the taxi drivers and the limo drivers and the party buses, it's only in their best interest that people drive politely, to drive correctly, because it lends people into wanting to be in the area. The area doesn't, you go in and you have a good Geno's East, you step outside and people step all over you left and right. It leaves a fucking disgusting taste in your mouth. Renaissance End. That opened because even longer term, and that's business clients as well. See, the Marriott was more short term. You're a business engagement for a week or for a month, maybe a few months. But the Renaissance End you're there for 6 months to a year or multiple years. And the reason it has a kitchen and everything else, so you don't have to eat out, and you can put things in the kitchen. Some have wash machines and dryers, so you can do your laundry. And these are people that have longer-term business engagements. That's the Renaissance end market. They don't want the tourist. They don't want the short stuff. So I don't get it. Like this guy right here being a piece of shit. In Tokyo, the speed limit's going down to 18 miles an hour. 18 miles an hour. And they're jacking the fines. They found 25 miles an hour is too fast in an urban center. They want Tokyo to grow. They want the city to grow. And to get more density, they got to make the city safer. So they got to slow down car traffic, improve public transportation, and other things. Not only are they slowing down car traffic, but they're improving the public transportation, sidewalk systems, and others so people can move more easy, so they can grow. So as big as it is, they still want to grow a shit more. But they understand they got to improve the safety before the growth. They got to set the foundation on a bed of rocks, and they kick the fucking shit out of the assholes. They fuck them up like a motherfucker. That's what great shaming and losing face. And everybody turns their back on you. They ostracize you. Not only do you get it from the legal, you get it from the community. The community says, get the fuck out of my store. Get the fuck out of the hood. So it's not only policing, it's social policing. We did that at Excalibur. We had blacklists and everything. And I'm for them. Even I've been kicked out of all these places, and I'm still forward kicking motherfuckers out and banning them. So make no mistake about that. The funny thing is, Matt Butkus, he got kicked out of like Scout, a friend. He had no problem. He's like, yeah, and like, let's go over to Scout. And he's like, no, I'm banned from Scout. He got too drunk. He acted like an idiot. But he wasn't like, fuck that Scout. I'm the shit all over it. He's like, no, I got drunk. I acted like an idiot. And I can't go back. That's out of his mouth. He didn't say, oh, those pieces of shit at Scout or anything else. He said, no, I got stupid drunk, did something stupid. I got banned from the location, and we can pick somewhere else to go, but I can't go back there. I lost my privileges. Now, here's somebody who comes from a highly famous family, domestically, very famous, and they're all good with it. These low-life pieces of nothing, when they screw up, they want everything forgiven. So I don't get it. It's just like my friend Evan Mizzicanto. His father gave him $5 million. He went out, blew it on drugs and everything else. His house and everything else he had to get rid of. Father, no money. And he became a bartender. Did he hate his father? No, he didn't hate his father. It was tough love, but he realized, I screwed up. I screwed up. I went out and blew it. I acted like an idiot. And then he was building himself back up. he became an exceptional bartender. He has a college degree. He does. He has famous connections, dated Shannon Doherty and everything else, but he knows I got to take my lumps. And he's not the only person. So I don't get it with these people. He didn't go around bad-mouthing his father and that. And he wasn't doing it to get back in. He understood. I screwed up. I deserved the punishment. And it was the greatest thing for him. He cleaned up and that. He bartended, but he straightened out his life. I know for a fact he stopped doing drugs and was maybe drinking a little bit, but truly, he had a new wife, kids, everything was going awesome. And Gino was giving me all the FYIs. But he cleaned up everything. He wasn't being an idiot. It's like Paris Hilton. She stopped being an idiot. She took her lumps in the media and all the negative commentary and everything else. And she took her lumps. And she looks back and she's truly, I screwed up. Her sister Nikki didn't. She did. She took her lumps. But all these people, they screw up and it's like they want instant forgiveness. They don't have to work their way out of it. They just want you to give them everything and forget about all the negativity they did. But these people lose everything. Robert Downey Jr., how about him? He had to work himself out of it. He went to jail. He lost his everything. Everybody ostracized him. And he had to work himself back up. No one would give him shit. No one would give him shit. No one would give Robert a door to get in. No one trusted him. He got one movie and he made the most of it. He made the most of it. Now you get Michael Keaton, right? He steps away for a long time, willingly stepped away. When he played Batman, he was at some of his top of his career. He came back with a low-budget movie. He was away for a long time. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But it wasn't like people were beating on the door to give him jobs. He stepped away from the industry and everybody stepped away from him. And they're like, hey, we have this low-budget film, and it was a low-budget film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, look at the budget. And they're like, we got this role and this, and you're in a, being this, mental health facility. And they shot the film, and it was his comeback. And he's a hard-working mother. So he made the most of it, and what did he do? He won awards. And there his career relaunched. But everybody didn't say, oh, Michael, when you step out of it, people move on. They want the current hot thing. No one knew Michael Keaton wasn't hot anymore. Wasn't a name that was going to draw people into the box office. So no one wanted him. He wasn't going to get any big budget movie. Because no one's going to come like, oh, it's Michael Keaton. Oh, that was then. This is now. He's not trending. But he understands that. He works in Hollywood. So I need to build my brand back. Even when they willingly didn't do anything wrong. He didn't. He just took time off. But he said himself, if you get the interview, I got to build my brand back. So I'm not going to step into a big budget movie. I stepped into a low budget movie and won outstanding awards and then got praised and recognized and in the magazines and building my brand back. Reestablishing myself. Now I want to do movies again. Robert Downey Jr., that's different. Drugs, going to jail, and everything else. But still, he had to rebuild his brand. Starting off, taking what he could. Truly, he literally took any movie. When he came back, it was Mel Gibson, but I forget what the first movie. He wasn't a picker. He wanted to get his foot back in the door. So he took what was offered to him and acted his ass off, worked very hard to get noticed. So when they see him, even if the movie sucked, even if the script sucks and the movie sucks, you get acclaimed by people saying, well, the movie might be bad and everything else, but, and you see it all the time, Robert Downey Jr., his acting was exceptional. He's the only bright spot in the movie. The script and the movie was very poorly done, very poorly directed and produced. But his role, he was exceptional in his role. So even if it stinks, if you put your all into it, you'll get recognized and you stand above everybody else. And they'll say, just like in a band, how do you think these people step away from a band? Because people recognize them for being exceptional. Like Ringo, he got into the Beatles. He was an exceptional studio drummer. They say one of the best. He was one of the best studio drummers. Truly. And he was so exceptional at carrying the beat and everything that he could fit in with these others. Their current drummer wasn't. And so he was so good that he ended up with the Beatles. Well, everybody knows Ringo. But he was the best studio drummer, they said, of the time. And when he was doing it, people hire him for the studio and everything else. And when the Beatles were looking, their manager, they found him. They found Ringo. So does this really do anything for, this is like promotion of music? It's promotion of garbage. Okay, going down the wrong way. But the whole thing is, he worked his ass off. He was a perfectionist, and that's what they were looking for. They were looking for a drummer who was incredibly gifted. And they found him, and he fit in with George, John, and Paul. The other guy didn't. George, John, and Paul just evolved so much faster than their drummer that he didn't fit for the group. They had to let him go. He just couldn't cut it. He petered out. He was still getting all the experience and everything else, but they were getting continuously better. He wasn't anymore. And so the separation between his skill and the other three just kept on getting greater and greater. And when they went to record and everything else, it sounded like shit. He just didn't have what it takes. So you find it out. They do it at consulting firms all the time, or at law firms. Eventually, those that rise to the top, they rise because they're the best. The other people just don't have what it takes. They're not willing to do what it needs to be done, but also they don't have the skill set, and they naturally fall to a lower level. No one suppresses them. Through pure competition, people end up where they should be. When you give people stuff, then people end up where they shouldn't be. And that means you get underperformance, and movies do horrible in the box office, and TV shows do horrible, and businesses fail. You're sacrificing. You're sacrificing. They're going to hold you down. That's why you can only give people what they deserve. And if they don't deserve it, they will just hold you down. Like the black race, if you're pumping them in the country and everything else, and these people don't have the talent, then country music will die. You won't gain market. You will lose current white fans, and they will run. So you think you're opening a marketplace, and you're not. You're losing a marketplace. Because it's not like rap and that are going to bow down and just give you their market. So those people have to win people over. They have to be able to expand your market. And if they can't, then you can't do it. They're going to drown you. And I'll give you an example. The Rosemont. They opened a country western bar in Rosemont. That country western bar was doing phenomenal. Kobe Keefe's or whatever. I mean, phenomenal. Then he opened up several others. And those other locations couldn't cut it. And he kept on draining off the profits from the one that was making it, and all his investors were getting screwed because they were siphoning money into losers, propping up losers. They put good money in, they thought they had, and it was just bleeding. And they didn't bring in any consultant or anything else. And what happens? Those bad locations drowned the good location. And he lost all those country western bars. Because the one that was making all the money, eventually taking all the money out of it and not investing back into it, they were diverting the money into all the others, it dies. It's just like when you buy properties. You can take a little bit from the existing property, shave off a little bit to start the next project. But if that project can't cut it, you don't want to lose both properties, because if you bleed off the golden goose, they killed the golden goose. Well, if you bleed it off and keep on giving the gold to all these people and they can't perform, then the goose dies. The system can't support itself. It falls under its own weight of incompetence. Its own weight. People just keep on sucking money out of it, sucking money out of it, sucking money out of it. And it falls under its own weight. They can't perform. When you give somebody a textbook, how many people go to college? And then you get them in the workplace. And you're like, okay, you got a law degree. Let's take a law degree. And you come from Harvard. But still, they don't make it as well. Truly, they're competing against MIT and many other, or Princeton, Yale, Brown, Columbia, and they're competing fiercely. So not every Harvard law student makes it. They fall. Because the competition is fierce. And so they fail. I've been around them. Like, yeah, just didn't make it. They didn't have what it took. And that's the weeding out or the pruning process. That's the same way as heaven. Think of heaven being an elite institution and only taking the cream of the crop. only taking the best of the best. It's not going to lower their standards for you. That's why the disciples knew they could never be above Jesus. Because God wasn't going to lower his standard and take Paul above Jesus. Because Jesus performed. He wasn't advocating his throne. He went out there and constantly performed. There was no losing the title. There was no advocating the title. He kept it to death. And none of the disciples but Judas stabbed him in the back, and then all the rest went. But they understood their place. They're not the top performer. It's named after Jesus Christ. Not Paul, not John, not Luke, but Jesus. Just like the Lutheran religion is named after Martin Luther. So again, taking the cream of the crop. When you subsidize something and those people can't perform, like the Pell Grant, I'll give you that. Do you know how the Pell Grant works? They went and did numbers, and they said, if we give this academic supplement, that these people will go and get junior college degrees, associate degrees at community colleges. They'll get 4-year degrees. They'll have a greater tool set. And in turn, we, the government, because we gave them this money, we, the government, will get more money in taxes because their starting wages will be higher and they will move up the food chain and make more money. Isn't that what the CFP and every other designation was looking for me? To move up the food chain, to prove their system works. You destroyed their credibility, making the CFP and every other designation and making my University of Arizona economics and my master's with college from, you make it, all of it failed. All of it failed. So why should anyone go after any of that since it doesn't work? So you advocate through me against all of that. That you're going to have no friends. You're going to have no money. That the freaking street bum, they're going to be the rock star. They're going to get all the money. They're going to rise to the top. They're going to have all the friends. So why go to Juilliard? Why spend all that time getting that expertise? And you're spending a fortune. You know how much they spend? University of Chicago MBA, $200,000 a year, right? So 2 years, that's $400,000. Something, I forget how much it is. Or is it 2 years, $200,000? So say it's $100,000 per year. I know it's above $100,000. Northwestern is almost $60,000 per year. Undergrad. So why spend all that money and do all that hard work when some guy walking down the street who's never done any of that is going to be like the ghetto black kid? They're going to be like the heavy, they don't know shit. And so they don't rise to the top because when there's true competition, they can't cut it. They don't have what it takes. And that's what I said to The Voice and other. Why aren't you pulling from these incredible music schools the people that deserve it, that train with all the expertise and everything else, and give them their shot? They deserve it. They have to go in and qualify. Look at Flashdance. Where's she qualifying for? Juilliard. going through all that to get the opportunity. She's just starting the institution in Flashdance. She did all that hard work just to get in. I was with dance majors at the University of Arizona. They studied dance for 4 years, training, everything. And then Teresa, she's in things in Vegas in different, dance performance troupes. They're not these fly-by-night. Even Mark Zuckerberg, he made it into Harvard. Bill Gates was in Harvard. These aren't fly-by-night Steve Jobs. These are not fly-by-night people. These people have incredible skill base and unbelievable drive. They have superior intelligence and superior drive. They're not a fluke. So when you go in and you're investing in somebody, you got to understand the foundation. You go into Elvis, he started young. Whitney Houston started young, and they perform. Tiger Woods, same thing as a little kid. Shaq, same thing. And they busted their ass. They're not a fluke. Michael Jordan, hardest working, not a fluke. They just work and work and work and work and work. They're the real deal. These people are the pretenders. You invest in them, money today, and when things happen, like Chris, he had this and that, and what happened? Everything. You invest in them, and then he busted. And that's what happens with them. They can't maintain. They're one-hit wonders. Look at all the one-hit wonders in music. They don't have what it takes. They don't have the skill base. They stumble across and get one hit. There is so many one-hit wonders. And the reason is they don't have the skills. Unlike the Beatles. They did all that time, but Paul is an incredible writer. George was an incredible songwriter. John was an incredible songwriter. And Ringo was considered one of the most technically proficient drummers in music. It isn't a fluke. And when they went on their own, like Paul and the Wings or anything else, they stand the test of time. Even when they separated, they were all great. The real deal. So you don't understand how, even in the social network, Mark Zuckerberg was working on other people's, even when he was in Harvard, he was working on other people's ideas. And he was building them, building the infrastructure, the guts and everything. He was the real deal. Unlike these people, and you bring these people into the country, and they only pull you down because they don't want to follow the rules. They don't want to do the right thing. So they drive down this country. They're like fucking albatrosses around our fucking neck. Driving us down, the cartels, their gangs, MS-13 and everything else. The Italian mafia, the Russian mafia, the Polish mafia. They all fucking just pulling us down. They're supposed to weed them out before they ever get into this country. That's why you can't have any illegal. And they have to do what they do in South Korea. They fucking hold them and they run them through the fucking ringer. Making sure they're quality. What do you think happened when they released Miss Park in South Korea? She pursued excellence. Then she came over here and got into Columbia. She learned English, got into Columbia. She had to take the entrance exams and everything. No one gave her shit. She excelled. She's a foreigner, the real deal. You let in these people, and they drag us down. They bring their filth, their disgust, their disgrace. And it's unbelievable. And they sink us. So I drive around here and look at their actions. And what are they doing? They're showing me what dirtbags they are. How much this country is going to shit. You brought in a bunch of freaking filth. You didn't bring in stars. And it doesn't matter. Miss Park was dirt poor. She had nothing. But she had tenacity. And she didn't go out there and I'm like, I'm going to come in and I'm going to go steal and rob and scam people. No, I'm going to bust my ass, work hard on my education, work hard on my skill base, and move up the food chain. That's the American dream. Look at a wonderful life. Even George, he doesn't go to school. He's busting his ass, learning everything he can about finance and the bank and everything else, building his developments and working really hard to make it happen. His brother goes, a war hero, goes to college, is a war hero and everything else, busting their fucking ass. Raw talent, send them to music school. That's what I would do. If you think he's got it, I'd be like, here, bro. We need to send you to school to see if you really got it. Bobby Fischer. What did they do with him? They sent him in to mentor to see if he really could do it. If he was the real deal. Little man Tate. Same thing. They send him in with all these incredible individuals to see if he's the real deal. He's got to prove it over and over again. That's what Bobby Fischer did. He had to prove that he was the real fucking deal. No one gave him shit. He got the opportunities through excellence. So I don't get it. But going back to my stuff, you know, how are they structuring all this? This is why they fail and these landlords have such turnover, and then you have crime and everything else and violence because the crowds don't mix. The crowds don't mix. And when the crowds don't mix, you get people coming out of one place and coming out another, and all of a sudden you get violence. Because they don't mix. So what do? You have these hot things, and then you have all these people that have these different actions. Why do you think we go through, and you've got to go through the constitutional training and everything? Because we want them to assimilate. We want them to know the laws, and we want them to follow the freaking laws. We don't want them to drag us down that we have to spend more and more money policing them. So you want to bring in people that you have to spend more and more and more money controlling? So they don't bring the society up. You bring in labor because that labor is going to make society greater. They're going to be a net profit. You bring them in, and they bring in the cartels. And then you got to spend fortunes on your own problems. And then what happens? Your kid starts doing drugs. Truly. And then your kid starts stealing and lying and cheating and doing all kinds of evil. So we've brought in our nightmare. When are we going to stop doing that? And when are we going to be like these other countries? They're incredibly tight. They stick cavity searches. They search your shit like no tomorrow. And they keep an eye on them. Like in Japan, if you fuck up once, you're gone immediately. Not here, oh, we give them tickets and you fuck up, you're gone. They made a mistake. They got the wrong person. Get the fuck out. Here, we're like, no, that's okay. Bleed us down, do wrong things. We'll give you more chances. Do wrong things again, and we'll give you more. Go look at the revolving door in prison. Truly, go look at the revolving door. My family came over, and no one in my family has ever gone to jail. Truly, in my family, my ancestors, they came over before World War II and I, and they built the city. They are bricklayers and other things, building it, never going to jail, paying their taxes, good people. That's how America grew, by the people doing the right things. I come down here and I see a black guy over here and a black bum over here. I'm like, when is that going to end? They drain off so much resources, and we're talking billions of dollars, that they're piring out of the community. What do you think the bridge in Minnesota, we couldn't pay for infrastructure, our sewer, our water systems? Why do you think that is in the black community? They couldn't update the infrastructure because people were doing better and doing the right things? No, because they had gangbangers and many other negativity, and there was no money to take care of the issues. And because the community allowed the deadbeat bums and everything else to exist, well, then the money goes out to take care of them, and then you're drinking out of pipes with lead. Your streets are ill-repaired. Your street lights are broken because you're spending all the fucking money on taking care of the bum. It's a pie, and that segment transfer payments to them. That means they're not improving shit that improves your residence or anything else. They suck the life out of the community. They're not a godsend to the community. They're the destruction of the community. Why do you think Deerfield, and we'll start with District 213, has shitloads of cash, and their teachers make a minimum of $120,000 a year? Because they have bums on the street? Or is everybody going to work, paying their bills, taking care of their properties? Most everybody, it could be better there, but still most everybody is on with the plan to do the right thing. And so the money comes in to be able to recruit highly talented teachers. That's what Texas did. Their teacher pension fund was making so much money in its investments. The investment manager of the Texas pension fund, teachers pension fund, was outperforming the benchmark. He was doing greater than 7% per year. Do you know what they did? The state could cut the money into the pension. And they did. And what did they do with the money? They used it to recruit teachers. How? By paying teachers higher salary. They didn't have to put as much money in the pensions. So they took that money to recruit better teachers so they could get a better educational population, so they can bring in more high-tech industry. What do you think Silicon Valley funds off of? They have, UC Berkeley. They have Stanford. They have Cal Irvine and many others. And that brain trust feeds into Silicon Valley and supports Silicon Valley. Lots of very bright, diligent, clean-cut individuals. They're not going out and committing crimes and that. They keep their nose clean, and they keep their nose to the grindstone, and they work their ass off, which gives them a great life. They get lots of nice things. So, unlike our teacher's pension fund, Rose, who's a friend of mine, audited it, and she was with the CKP. She was a pension fund auditor. And the city of Chicago lied about their rates of return. They did it the opposite way. They said, we're going to get 7% from this portfolio. And Rose was like, no, the most 4, maybe 5% at the most. And why did they do it? And these people should have went to jail. They didn't go to jail. They lied. Why? Because at a 7% rate of return, anyone who gets financial plans, like my clients, when we're doing better rates of return, I tell them that you can divert money into other things. You don't have to give me as much money. Truly, if you want to pile up more money to, have a greater retirement, that's fine. But I tell them, just cut back and live life more now. We're getting a better rate of return. Use that money for your lifestyle now. We don't need it. That's what they did in Texas. Here, they lied about the rate of return. They overestimated and underdelivered every single year on the state pension and city pensions. They overestimated their rates of return. And they underperformed. That's why we're upside down. Because if they told the truth, they couldn't divert money away from the pensions. They would have had to put it in. But to be able to buy votes, and that's what Madigan did, and I don't understand why he isn't going to jail for pension fraud. Why didn't they charge Madigan and then Mayor Daley with pension fraud? I'll give you actuaries that know the rates of return, and they lied about their projections. They knew they couldn't hit the numbers, and they kept on lying, and the pension kept on falling shorter, but because they kept the number of returns higher than they were actually getting, they didn't have to put more money in. So what happened? Underperformance, less money in, the pension funds became incredibly underfunded. That is pension fraud. But some reason, they didn't go to jail. If they don't hit their benchmarks, it is pension fraud and they go to jail. But the politicians used it to buy all kinds of votes, doing wasteful projects, spending money they shouldn't have spent, money they didn't have. And then what did they do? They did the lying about the pensions, and then what did they do in the city of Chicago? They raised taxes in the state of Illinois multiple times. That hit everybody here. Then the city, what did it do? It raised property taxes multiple times. But then they couldn't raise property taxes anymore. So do you know what they did? They put extra taxes on your phone bill, on your water bill, on your electric bill, on your gas, on your liquor. Liquor is incredibly taxed. We had the highest tax on cigarettes at over $1 a pack because they couldn't raise property taxes anymore. So they started raising taxes on everybody else, everything else, across the board. They boosted the general sales tax up to 11, almost 12%. They raised it numerous times. Again, because they couldn't raise property taxes And the state, after several raises in the income tax for the state, they froze it because they couldn't raise that. Then the state started adding on fees. It's not only the city of Chicago. When you're down here, you pay city of Chicago tax, you pay Cook County tax, you pay state tax, and you pay federal tax. And they all piled on into the gasoline tax. And everybody was opting out in electric cars. So electric cars, all that tax money that would be from gas vehicles wasn't coming in anymore. They raised it, unbelievable, the tax on gas vehicles, but that fucks everybody who drives a gas car. The people who pay for the electricity, the electric cars, they don't pay that tax. The people that drive the gas cars, they pay for all the roadways. The electric cars, not only do they get an energy credit from the state and federal, they don't have to subsidize the infrastructure by paying the local gas tax, the county gas tax, the state gas tax, and the federal gas tax. They don't pay any of that. It's not on. They charge at home and that. And so all these hybrid electrical cars and pure electrical cars, they don't pay those taxes. And so the roadway funds were going down. And not only going down, because the EPA, and this is the thing they didn't balance out, the EPA was forcing cars to get more miles per gallon. And so again, because they were getting more miles per gallon, people weren't filling up as often. And again, all that money goes into the infrastructure. Obama didn't know this shit. He's a constitutional lawyer. He didn't know anything about fucking finance. His people fucked up greatly. And so what happened? The EPA pushed out mileage and people were not filling up as much, but that hurts the convenience stores. Because the convenience stores don't get people coming in as much because the miles per gallon goes up. So they have to become more proficient at people coming in for other things but gas. They need to market the gas station as where you go and pick up your milk, or where you go and pick up your chips, or where you go and get a sandwich and a thing in the gas station. Because as the miles per gallon goes up, less trips to the gas station. But also, they need to find the infrastructure taxes. Because that's all on the fuel taxes. Do you know that? That's how they do it. The federal tax on fuel, they move around to help subsidize other projects. But Illinois, its tax on the fuel goes right to our infrastructure. Stay away from me. No more social tax. Go earn your own fucking living. Yeah. No, you're not. It would be good if you got the true pandemic and you just died, and you'd be doing the community a benefit. There's got to be a trade-off in saving lives. Somebody needs to die. So if you're sucking the life out of the system, then it should be you. I'm done with this bullshit. Come near me, ask me for $1. I'm busting my ass, sleeping on the floor, freezing my ass off as a kid, getting up at 3 a.m, going out and having a paper route. Fuck you! So again, something's got to give. And you don't understand. So we push electric vehicles. We didn't solve where we're going to get the money from for the infrastructure. So instead of giving tax subsidies on electric vehicles, they need to be penalizing them. We need to charge up for an electric vehicle. From local, county, state, and federal, they need to charge shitloads more money, figuring out how much they're losing over a lifetime, or put a tax penalty for having an electric vehicle. Truly, put a tax penalty for electric vehicle. But the thing is, how much of a penalty? It's a red light! See all these shitbags down here flashing their lights. Get over. It's a one-lane street. There is no getting over. You wait your fucking turn. Everybody doesn't know. You're in a line. You wait your fucking turn in the line. You have no right to go ahead of me. You can't bully me. But then the police don't do anything about it. I would drag you out of the car and beat you silly. And then if you opened your mouth, I would break all your fucking teeth. We don't teach people that you have to have patience. You wait in line. No, you're going to tailgate me and then bright me and tell me to get out of your way. So we get a shitty society where they're taught no discipline, zero discipline, and they go around bullying everybody. Look at that. Why do you think we get all these fucking animals? Truly, go out and you will find that all those kids that speed the cars, lots of them overwhelmingly do criminal activity. Overwhelmingly are criminals. They don't have discipline. The rules don't apply to them. And you're fucking up. You're teaching people to be fucking animals instead of teaching them to be patient. Wait in line. So I didn't do that to anyone. Never. David drove with me, Jen drove with me, and many people drove with me. Costa, you name it. I don't have the right of way. I gotta wait my turn. I stay behind you. If I want, I'll divert off to another street, which I'll do. But I have no right to tell them to go faster. I have no right to bully them. You're teaching animals. That's why in the ghetto, they're so fucking vicious. They hit people, hit and runs in the ghetto. They don't give a shit about it. Everything doesn't matter but themselves. So everybody around them is disposable. What do you think black people kill each other for? Everybody around them in the ghetto is disposable. They don't follow the rules. They don't follow They jaywalk and do all the crimes and by a police station. And these motherfuckers are disgusting. They're the problem. They turn a blind eye to all the shit. Why do you think in Taiwan, Singapore, and others, you spit, they kick the shit out of you in Singapore? The point is teaching them discipline, that in public, you must be very mindful of your habits. You must do the right thing. That's why they have less violent crime than Japan. Because they teach people immense discipline. Here, you can blow lights, you can drive 90 miles an hour like the kid that drove down Ontario, the 100 miles an hour. Now, he died at the end of it, but it didn't apply to him. And you teach them by allowing them the speed that the rules don't apply to them. And whenever they want to break the rules, they're free to break the rules. And that's what you do with the jaywalking and everything else. So these communities raise better people. They're willing to kick the fucking shit out of them. And you don't see bums in the street because you get great shame. So people work. Oh yeah, they honor work. Being a bum is a great shame. So they'll clean the street. They'll shovel shit to get their daily bread. Here, the bums have no shame, no disgrace. Over there, you're disgraceful. Go out and do what you can. Contribute to the community. Do the right thing. As I put out with the nuclear reactor. That they got volunteers to go in and end up dying. To shut down the reactor. They didn't have the suits they needed. And they ended up getting sick and die of radiation poisoning. But somebody had to do it. And it couldn't wait. They had to do it right away. So people literally volunteered to die. That's what they did at Hail Mary. They volunteered to die. But to save the planet, to go out in space and find a cure for something. But the point is, that really did happen in Japan, and they did really volunteer. And I don't care what the press says now or whatever the research comes up. I already posted, I know the truth. I read many stories. It should have never happened. They should have had the hazmat suits and everything. Why they didn't, I don't understand. But the thing is, they also put a nuclear reactor in a seismic active zone where you put it on the coast and you have earthquakes. And earthquakes in the ocean cause tsunamis or tidal waves. So why would you put a nuclear reactor in a highly seismic zone that if there's an oceanic earthquake, you're going to have a massive tsunami? How do you even get a permit for that? I mean, somebody in Japan, and there's been bribery in the government. That's why all the Japanese banks, the Japanese banks used to be in the top 10? And in the top 5, they had numerous banks in the top 5 largest banks in the world. Corruption took them down. Corruption within the banking system and corruption in the government. Just like in South Korea. I did a whole case study on them from economics. The corruption within the South Korean government and the corruption between them and businesses. Unbelievable. So somebody paid somebody off in Japan to be able to build that nuclear reactor there, because no one in the right mind would have built the nuclear reactor. And you can this is where you get investigative reporters and you pull up the truth. Even if it's a done deal, you don't let those shit stay. You investigate the shit out of it to make sure it never happens again. So you drill down to expose something that should have never happened in the first place. So people got paid off. It should have never been built there. And what happened? It killed the whole nuclear reactor industry in Japan because they started pulling out all the nuclear reactors because they didn't want another negativity that destroyed the nuclear energy business. So the suppliers that supplied the stuff for the reactors and that were vendors from the United States and they should have, from France, they should have told them, no, we're not giving you the freaking resources because you can't build a nuclear reactor in a seismic zone right on the freaking ocean. So, like here, this is what we get in the city of Chicago. The police right down here, they don't do anything. They don't follow anything. In Japan, you'd be in jail for 3 months. So I don't understand what they're doing here. I would change the laws and crack down. And believe me, just like they said, we just sent the probe to Pluto, right? And it just went by and everything else. But what did they say? They voted on whether Pluto is a planet or not. And they said voting, that's a bunch of bullshit. And that's what I think of voting. They said it destroyed science, that vote. It was unbelievable downfall of science because the evidence, the proof, you do objective researches, performas, everything else, and that's what makes the decision. These motherfuckers don't know all that. And you go with what they vote. Fuck their vote. Truly, you get unbelievable inefficiency. The masses are asses. You give all these morons, high school dropouts, deadbeats, the bums get a right to vote. You got all these people voting. And they're ignorant and they get swayed by everybody. That's how Obama won the presidency. He bought the vote. Not in the way you think TV ads effective. He got buses. And he bought them breakfast. That's what he did. Big busing campaigns in black communities. And he would give them free rides to the poll. And also give them breakfast. So he got all these people to vote for him for a free meal. And they get to go out and go to the poll and have a day of it. It was an adventure for them. All paid for by Obama. That's how he won the election. He bought it. He took people that traditionally didn't vote and he bussed them all into the polls. Read about it. And he did good jobs of targeting ads, but the busing was what won him. And he filled up all these school buses of people to vote for him. It wasn't his immense campaign. It wasn't anything. It was the busing. Busing bums, indigents, and everything else to the polls to get them to vote. And so he won the election twice that way. The Republicans didn't do stuff like that. And these people didn't know, they just voted straight Democratic. And then what did he do also when he got in? The first thing he did, expand Medicare. Medicaid, I should say. The first thing he did was expand Medicaid. He expanded it, and food stamps. First thing he did. expanded, reverse President Clinton's thing, expanded welfare, expanded entitlements. And we're in an economic downturn. Do you know Obama's infrastructure project? It never got done. Do you know why it never got done? Because he flooded the government with obligations of welfare and Medicaid, social programs. So they couldn't do the bridges and that. His infrastructure program never happened. All those infrastructure jobs never happened because it went into free medical care, free food stamps. He expanded all the social services when the government just had one of the largest economic downturns in history. What did that do? Me and David talked about it. He bought the votes for his re-election. He bought the votes. And he did the same thing in the second thing. Buying votes. So these people didn't vote because I know the issue. I know what's going on. Nope. They didn't. And so he secured 8 years. Mitt Romney should have won. And then they used the tape that they stole and called him a racist. Mitt Romney's a big racist. You know, those people saying, my tax dollars, they're going to all these social service programs. Obama expanded Medicaid and that. It didn't help my business one bit. All that money is going that way. I'm paying more taxes than ever. And my businesses aren't benefiting. You're bleeding me down. I need people to get jobs and work and pay their way. So he didn't do great jobs acts like they did during the Great Recession where they built the Hoover Dam and everything else. They solved it by putting people to work and only paying them for a fair day's labor. They got rid of the soup kitchens and started communes of labor. Read about it. They brought all these people in that needed a job and they did day labor. Under very skilled people. But that's how we got out of the Depression. We built things that created more jobs. The Hoover Dam created electricity. Now, I'm not for big dams anymore. But, again, the project created power and then funded industry with that power. And that power allowed new industries to be built because the power, the cost of running the industry went down. And so more industries opened up because of the projects. So they gave them temporary jobs of building the dam, as an example. And when the power came online, they got permanent jobs for auto industry and many other things that needed the power. So they converted the temporary jobs into permanent jobs. That's how we got out of the recession. But they needed to generate something that would create new businesses. Lots of new businesses. And so it sucked up all the unemployment. So they realized the free lunch welfare thing, it doesn't work. The only way it works if they earn what they receive. And if they didn't earn it, they don't get it. And then giving a kid, a young punk, a luxury car, fuck that shit. My kid, they have something to look forward to in life when they get on their own dime. I'm not giving them a luxury car. I hated it in Deerfield. I'm like, so what do these kids have to look up for? And this is a research paper on the Filthy Rich. They realize they've given their kids stuff. you get lots of Paris Hiltons. In the early days, that go out, party, blow money, do all kinds of stupid shit. They realize, and I talked about, if you got the money and you earned it and want to go out, but there's a toll to pay, if you don't produce, you're going to be fired. Like Jimmy, he understood. He'd go out and pop bottles here and there, but not often, but every so often, because he had to be in the pizza place producing. If not, the place collapses. So again, he learned to be conservative. He still went out every so often and did that, but he had to go to work. He had to do his shit. And this stuff makes me sick as shit. Good police work, this is just reactive police work. After the fact shit. The shit happens and they come a-running. Good police work nips it in the bud like the FBI did on North and Wells. They got the terrorists before the bomb went off. No one got hurt. And they busted at Sears Tower and many other things before the crime ever happened. That's police work. This is pure incompetence. Not police work. So there's a big difference in what you consider police work and incompetence. They're just whack-a-mole. They just respond to wherever it's called. That's not policing. That's pure stupidity. Sitting around doing fucking nothing and just responding once it happens. That's why I put out getting in the bars and putting undercover, making sure they're not serving too much liquor. Busting the drug dealers in the bars. Where are the narco units? The vice units and all the other stuff. Finding it and searching it out and getting that person to give up the person they received it from and that person, and you follow all the way back. But what do? They bust somebody for having marijuana or anything else, then they throw them in jail, then they show up for court, and then they get some fine, or they might, serve a short sentence. That didn't take anything off the street. And when that person gets out, they go and start buying the drugs again. They buy the crack or whatever they were doing before. They get back on the street. Now they're free again, and now they go right back to it. It didn't solve the problem. You want to know where they got it from. And you march it right back. And you get everybody in the dominoes. It's a domino effect. Uphill. But all they do, slapping on the wrist, the city does, get a few bucks, see you next time. It's like my roommate. He got busted for smoking marijuana in Tucson. They never asked him where he got the marijuana from. They didn't investigate. They didn't ask for the source. They didn't work it up the food chain. They could have busted some really big dealers. But they didn't. And then what happens? He can't smoke marijuana because it takes too long, so he goes and switches to cocaine. And then he wanted somebody to do it with. And he wasn't trying to get me really to smoke until he switched to cocaine. And then he wanted somebody to do it with, so he pressed me to do drugs. But the funny thing is, when they get these people, they just ask where the source is from. And the people are using, they'll give up the source in a heartbeat. And then you got them, and then you just work it all the way back up. It's like any process. You reverse engineer it. It's a simple solution. Highly effective. So it's a reverse engineering, and then you get everybody in the food chain. That means you go all the way to the source and you kill it. No more source. And that means going back to the fields. You're going all the way back to where they got it from. Where did that poppy come from? What poppy field? Who's raising the poppies? Where are they getting the fertilizer? Where are they getting the machinery and everything else to take care of the plants? How are they doing the harvesting with the labor and everything else? You're shutting down the whole mechanism. They got to take it, they got to grow it, then they got to harvest it, then they got to break it down, then they create the product, then they have to and you're wiping out everything. So instead, they have all these people they get with marijuana tickets and everything, and they don't do their research. You just got the key to the city, and you don't back engineer it. So that's lazy police work. They don't care. And they hate doing the paperwork in the first place, so they ignore it. Pieces of garbage. So these things can be easily resolved. It's just like the bum on the street. Reverse engineer it. That's where you have an intake meeting. I want to know where it went wrong. What were your parents like? What was school like? When did you start doing booze? Why did you start doing booze? Reverse engineer it. And after you're talking to a bunch of them, you'll see the pattern. And you're like, okay, there were some failures in high school, also elementary school. What were they? So on and so forth. And then you can solve the issues within the system so you don't get any more bums. But they don't pads in that. I've been preaching this forever. I'm like, you don't do a whole history on them? You got to build a dossier. Each of them, you got to know their history from the time they were born to the time they ended up in the shelter. What happened? Did you get hooked on drugs like crack or anything else? And who introduced the crack to you? And why did you do the crack? What stressors were? Were you behind on your bills? Was there a riffle in the family? Why did you turn to this? Was it a cool kid and you wanted to be trendy? Truly. And so some hip kid was pushing it. Okay. So there is a breakdown in your moral resistance. That's what youth groups are supposed to do. How many youth pastors say, hey, if you ever had problems like my friend Jimmy Rice, he used to break into his parents' liquor cabinet. That's where he got the alcohol problem from. And it affected him finishing, not going to college. He became a mechanic and finally got over the hurdle. But his dad was a successful developer. The drinking at a young age destroyed him. And if they would have noticed these things, like, where did you get the alcohol from? And reverse engineer it, and then what's going on at home? Are you feeling neglected by your mother or father? Are you getting picked on like the Columbine kids? But they don't research it when they come in and they're like, oh, is that the first time you've been bullied? They had a whole list of people that bullied them. But the point is, they didn't break it down. And when they got the first thing, they're like, okay, is this the first incident that you have ever had at the school? Did it happen in elementary or junior high? Because these classmates come with you. You grew up here. You know that. And so the kids that grew up with you, have they been picking on you since you've been a little kid? But you would have never had Columbine. These problems would have never occurred. They're fucking lazy pieces of fucking shit. They don't do their fucking job. So when they come in an office, it's not the first time. And then who else are you? Where are you having problems? We can change classes. We might need to move you to a different school and give you a fresh start. But they need to break this shit down. And they don't. It's just like I did when I wrote people up. I want to know why you were failing. What's going on in your personal life? If you didn't want to tell me, that's fine. I'd put that in the note. But I want to know why you showing up late, like my sister. She wanted to fire my nephew Eric because he kept on coming late in the morning. And I said, no, put him on mid-shift. I said, it can be easily solved. He has the skills in that. He just likes to stay out late because he has friends. And he likes going to these things. And so just put him on the mid-shift. It starts at 2 or 3. And what happened? She switched the shifts to 2 or 3 o'clock. And my nephew Eric never showed up late again. But I did that with my workers. I want to peel back the onion. What's going on at home? What's going on in your life? I want to know why you're not succeeding. Because on the resume and what I looked at, you should be. So, what's going on? If you have drug problems or alcohol problems, that's fine. We'll address them. But I can't help you if you don't tell me. Why do you think everybody was honest with me? I was able to help them because they told me the fucking truth. I can't help you if you lie to me. I can't give you guidance if you deceive me. So this stuff shouldn't happen. Like when you get a mugger or an armed robber or a thief, you want to know the history. Even if they won't tell you about other crimes, you want to know what's going on in their life. So when the parole officer knows when they get out that they have these issues. And so they have issues of paying rent or other things, and they can put them into a training program. What did I do with a girl? She worked for Sonia, my dentist. She's Polish. But her son, he was having problems. And I said, so what does he like? And so on and so forth. And he likes computers. I'm like, okay, so this is what we'll do. My friend Jimmy, and he did, he can work for him at the pizza place, and then he can go to the technical school, get a designation for Microsoft, and that will be a bridge. But Jimmy needed some short-term help. But right off the bat, he knew not permanent. So what did I do? Did that, then he did the technical, and then he started doing computers and making good money. No more problems with acting out, stealing, nothing, gone. And she took me to her, she graduated from her master's, and I went to her graduation, event, which was really nice. Dance and food and everything else to celebrate her graduation from the college. She got her master's degree. But she's getting a master. Her son is having all kinds of issues, and we worked them out and solved them. But you got to peel back the onion. See, a therapist only peels back the onion with what's going on with your personality. They need a sociologist to take that information from the psychologist to the sociologist to plug you into the right setting, to train you on how to overcome those issues within a group. The sociologist can tell you, okay, we know you have this tendency, that tendency. He gets all that from the psychologist. The sociologist says, okay, this is how we can refine you with a group. This is the people you work well with. Maybe, go hang out over here. Go with, join the photo club at school, photography club. Or join the computer club, or join the chess club. Those people with your tendencies, these people fit in. You're not annoying. You fit in with their culture. That's what the sociologist does. You can't have a psychologist without a sociologist. They have to solve the greater issue, the group issue. And that means your mother and father are at home with other kids. And that's why they don't solve the problems at home, because the psychologist peels it back, but there's no sociologist that understands each component of the group, and then the father and mother aren't relating correctly. So they have to work together. The psychologist, the sociologist. Then if they have alcohol, problems, or drug problems, or, sexual, whatever the addiction is. So again, these are solutions, even with prisoners. Every prisoner has to get a psychologist. Pulling back the onion, looking at how we need, and then plugging them in to the group, Celebrate Recovery, or whatever it may be. And then the sociologist helps them fit within society. So when they get out, they can integrate into society, have friends, have a life. It's the same thing with a bum. As I told you, you got to peel back the onion, and now you understand them, and you can apply things like you need to go to this meeting or that meeting, and these organizations to further help individual therapy, but you also need group therapy. And then from group therapy, a sociologist will be working with you to help you find proper friends, to solve the family problems at home, like you don't get along with your sister. Like the movie, TV show, Young Sheldon. And a sociologist understands the personalities that are given to them, of each of them, and can tell them, well, Georgie and others, and can make the things work where they work efficiently and have harmony and have peace at home. They're not criticizing or conflicting. The parents with them with the parents, them with each other. But these issues can be resolved. But it's the failure of bad leadership. And then people voting that have no idea what they're voting on. So I'm so removed from politics now that I don't know exactly what's going on. But the whole point is, you say these things and we get not the right people for the position because they don't understand the demographics. And they don't know why people are voting the way they're voting. One part of the exit polling is why. A lot of people, black people, vote Democratic, overwhelming, almost 100%, say. But also, more black people came out ever for Obama and the busing program, but they were willing to come out because they wanted to see the first black president. So they were voting because it was a black guy running. It's not racism. That's what was driving all the extra black votes to the poll. So all these normal black people that don't vote, they were all coming out in huge numbers. He got an incredible turnout of the black base because they wanted to see the first black president. Then they wanted to re-elect the first black president. The first two-term black president. First black president and also the first two-term black president. So he wasn't a one-term and out. He was a two-term black president. And because he mobilized the base, gangbangers and everybody else that was of age, they were all voting for him. So they already vote heavily Democratic, but in particularly all the black people were voting for Obama because he was black. I'm not saying every black vote, but the ones that were at the lower end, the blue collar and so on, they were voting because he was black, because they wanted to see the first black president. Not because he had the skills or they believed in him in that way. They just wanted a black president. But understanding why people are voting that way so you can understand what's going on. The base doesn't know. They weren't voting for him to cure a problem. They were voting for him just because he was black, not because he had the greatest capability. And if you understand that, then you end up with a leader who's deficient. He got votes not because he was gifted, and he is a constitutional lawyer and everything, but it wasn't votes because he was gifted. He didn't do anything as the state of Illinois as a senator. He didn't get any huge initiatives and like groundbreaking. Barack Obama, he's done this or that. No. It's a bunch of bullshit. So you have to understand why they're voting. The masses are asses. It's like I told Claudia about, or the black girl too. I'm like, so you think we should just allow, all these illegals to pour in and everything else? And I said, so where is the money coming from to take care of them? Are you going to give up your job? And if they come in, are you willing to take a wage reduction because they're willing to work for less? So are you going to... And the black girl said, no. And then Claudia, no. Okay. Because once they understand the issue and how their bread is buttered and what it does to their ability to take care of themselves, then they're like, no. And then you explain to them, isn't it better that we rebuild these Latin American countries and get the gangs out of El Salvador and get the crime out of Colombia and that by rebuilding their communities that if we need to expand industries and we don't have the jobs here, we can send it to somewhere else in Latin America and give them good paying jobs in different industries and outcompete the narco traffickers, because you can make good money. They cheat you on the field. They do a lot of health risks and everything else. But if you work with people that run sweatshops and that, then that all breaks down, which Nike found out multiple times in India. It doesn't work. But you can outcompete the narco trafficker for labor. And so you expand down there. You don't bring them up here. You build their communities and you build a stronger trading partner or create a trading partner. And that's also how you build global goodwill. And the narco becomes the threat to the community and prosperity, not the source of prosperity and jobs. You just took away all their labor by offering better alternatives. Alternatives that give no risk, that pay well, that give health benefits, disability benefits, life insurance benefits, retirement benefits. And so, I don't know where these people are driving around like idiots. And again, all those years, I used to go club hopping with Costa and that. I never did any of that. I want to make it to the club. I want to have a good time. I don't want to get in an accident. So, getting back to it, so we outsource the jobs. You can cut off all immigration altogether. And we would just outsource. Truly, we can outsource to many communities around China, India, you name it. We don't need the immigration. Don't take their brains, have their brains work for you in India so they can mentor more people, the smarter, so your business can grow even more overseas. So we don't need their brains. Like I said, they can come over for an education, but they got to get the fuck out. Go back and build your country. So we don't need any immigration. We can have zero immigration for the next decade. And we just expand overseas, and those elite students coming out of the Indian institutions, they work for Microsoft and many other corporations, like Deloitte opened up in India. And they move up through those ranks. So we really don't need immigration. So again, we can build countries around the world and build better partners and build our network, making America stronger. Because that means we have non-correlated assets in Colombia, in Mexico, in El Salvador, in Venezuela, you name it. By building their country, coming over, getting an education, or coming over and getting trained. Like I was going to go out to California, I think it's Marina del Mar, for the Cheesecake Factory. And I would only be there to do training, and then once I'm done, I would have got placed at the store in Chicago. But I would have went out there, do the training, and then come back here to work in Chicago. So it's the same thing I was going to do with Boeing. They were going to send me out there for Long Beach, California to do training, and then I would get placed in a logistical operation somewhere, I think here or somewhere else. But that's where they have their training at. So I go out there, I do all their training, then I come back. But we don't really need immigration. We need to build countries around the world, and that protects America from economic downturn because we have more trading partners that have their own economic cycles, and that means if one here or one there, it's diversification. Turns down, we don't turn down. And by building them to be stronger, we become stronger. So again, we should have very little immigration anymore. And people need to have babies and build from within. That's what Japan's doing. They hardly have any immigration. There's countries that have hardly any, and they're incentivized in building from within, not from without. So again, if we have to, we can go down to zero immigration. We don't need it. Like I said, the NFL and the San Diego Padres might open up in Tijuana, right across the border, and build out Tijuana. And free up all that other land for different industries that are more high-tech and everything in San Diego. And they get to build out their base community because they're not there at the educational level yet. It'll take them generations. And so you're bringing them well-paying jobs now to build out a brighter future tomorrow. So that's seed capital. And people from San Diego and that go down in Tijuana and buy all kinds of goods in Mexico. And so cross-the-border trade goes up. That's why I talked about San Diego State, University of San Diego and all that, working with Tijuana, helping to build it out, helping to build out their medical system and that. And that protects us from HIV and STDs and pandemics. You understand that, right? That if we help build out these countries, they build out their healthcare systems and their infrastructure, their water systems, their waste management systems, and so on. And that protects us from them bringing disease to us or us going over there and catching disease. And we have to protect them. When people leave to their countries, we can't send them disease people. We can't have them go over there and spread disease. Then they get sicker, and then it comes back on us again anyways. It's a boomerang effect, like the movie Boomerang. So again, we build out them, they get healthier, and by them being healthier, we minimize the possibility of pandemics. Pandemics only exist when communities are unhealthy. But if we can bring up the community's economics and they can build out the infrastructure, then they can nip it in the bud very quickly within their system because they have annual physicals and that. Truly. And that protects us. So you have to understand the economics. I put all this out on Facebook. All the things that are necessary to build out all these communities around the world. And with it, with its waste management and many other things, solving the problems. And this all can be done now. So, again, a brighter world for all, them and us. So you can travel the world and not really worry about getting sick or having contaminated food or other things that are negative because they don't clean right like going to Ghana, talking about, using their hand to clean their anus and, not having proper plumbing in the Tibaboo and everything. And so, again, they told us to stay away from the left hand. Might carry lots of E. coli. So if you build out their systems, you can go there and you don't have to worry. They got clean water, sinks, they wash their hands, they can take showers, they can clean their clothes, they can prep food, they can clean their restaurants, they can store it correctly. It solves the problems. And another problem is, stop fucking hurting me! But again, this is proper leadership. Barack Obama wasn't doing that. He spread terrorism all through the world. The world became more violent than ever before. He made so many strategic mistakes, it was unbelievable. But I'm going to leave this video here. But we should be moving towards a better world. As I'm listening to the BBC, British Broadcasting System, largest radio network in the world.